On this edition, it's a joy to have Dr. Mary Grace Pennella from Stillpoint Family Chiropractic make a return visit. We'll be talking about the power of gratitude. I'm Richard Brendan, and the conversation begins now. Dr. Mary Grace Pennella, it's so good to have you back in the studio again.
It's so great to be back.
For those who haven't heard the spas, haven't heard you before on this show, share a little bit about your background, how you got into the chiropractic business, and also started this amazing work you have up there in the North Side, Stillpoint Family Chiropractic.
Getting into chiropractic was almost an afterthought, although in the chiropractic profession, we pretty much all acknowledge that we didn't choose chiropractic, it chose us. So as such, I had a career before chiropractic. I was a retailer. I worked for Lord & Taylor in Manhattan, and then Evan Picone in Manhattan, and then I came to Indianapolis to work for L.S. Ayres. I went through that whole merger craze of the late 80s, early 90s, and I moved to St. Louis with L.S. Ayres when we became Famous Bar. Are you following all of this?
A little bit, yes.
It's kind of a crazy path.
You lost me at Famous Bar.
There you go. Well, then I came back to work for Sycamore Stores, which anybody who's homegrown Indiana will know about Sycamore Stores. And then I left Sycamore Stores when the knot at the end of my rope was pretty much so frayed I couldn't still hang on. So I then... I went to work for $7 an hour just because I had to get my head back together and figure out what I was going to do with my life. And at that point in time, what else would I want to do? And so it's, the what if game, what if I could do this? And that question that every coach asks you, well, what if you couldn't fail? What would you do? And at that point, I started thinking about chiropractic. And while I had had chiropractic care when I was a teenager, I never looked at it as a life path or as a career path. But at this point, it sounded like something I might be interested in, and so I checked it out. And, I'd been out of school at least 11 years, so I had a lot of catching up to do, if you will. I had to go and pick up some credits before I could get into grad school, and I did that at IUPUI. Those were kind of fun times. And then when I got to Palmer, which chiropractic got started with the Palmers, and so the school in Davenport, Iowa is the Fountainhead, and that's where I went. And from the minute I got there, I knew this is what I was supposed to be doing. So all of that preamble, it's life, but it's a preamble to what you finally know as your life path. So.
Now, I was impressed that many years ago as a teenager you went to a chiropractor because back in the day, they weren't so popular. They are now. But was it your mom or dad that took you there?
Comparatively speaking, you're right. They were not nearly as popular. It was my mom. She was pretty desperate for me. I had passed out as a teenager in high school. First day of my period, out cold on the gym floor, woke up in the nurse's office. How'd I get here? And so, the nurse explained to my mom that this was a natural reaction. My body was in pain, and it tried to check out. And so my mom took me to the gynecologist, figuring, okay, let's figure out what's wrong. And the gynecologist said, oh, yeah, don't worry about it. When she has her first kid, she'll be fine. And, of course, at 14, my mother now through grit teeth is going, do we have an answer for her now?
Yeah.
Because the subtext there was, pregnant anytime soon, and she's a dead woman. We don't have to worry about pain. So the gynecologist did her level best, which was give me Darvon, which was a Schedule C narcotic to try and take away the pain. The unfortunate thing is it kept me awake, but it didn't take away the pain. So the next month, I'm wide awake and miserable. The month after that, however, it happens while I'm home. And so I got ghostly white. I couldn't talk to them because I was in such pain. And my mother, was asking me, did you take your medicine? I did, I promised, just like it said. Yeah. So she's frustrated at this point in time, and she does the only thing she knows to do, and that's to take me to the chiropractor because she's desperate. And the chiropractor backstory was that he had been our pharmacist in town, and he had been diagnosed with a blood disorder and given 6 months to live, and told that, you go get your affairs in order because this is it. And his best friend said, well, have you tried chiropractic? Famous words now, have you tried chiropractic? And, Arnold's answer was, what's wrong with you? I don't have a backache. I'm going to die. What is wrong with you? And
because that's what we associated it with years ago.
Exactly. And so, his best friend said to him, well, what do you have to lose? And the best news there was that, after care, after he got under care, his body healed himself. So he didn't die in 6 months. As a matter of fact, in probably 8 or 9 months, he ended up selling the business, the pharmacy in town, and moving his entire family, which was wife and 2 children, from New Jersey to Davenport, Iowa, to go to school and become a chiropractor. So this is the person that she takes me to, and he took profoundly the Latin derivative of doctor, which is teacher. So he taught me, every time I was in his presence, he taught me something about my body and something about how my body had the capacity to heal and be whole and healthy all the time. And we only get in our own way. And really all chiropractic has ever been about is getting you out of your own way.
Yeah. Yeah. So your personal experience receiving chiropractic care was very inspiring for you to eventually then make it a career for yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how great was that when you went into this, you also had that business and marketing background? Because I know so many healers and people that flounder, they might have a gift, they don't have a gift for marketing themselves and making it a business.
That's true. And unfortunately, that's still probably a deficit in the graduate piece of things, that they don't necessarily give you a whole lot of business acumen, how to run a practice, because that part of it really is a business. The healing, you cannot compare to a business. The healing is a one-on-one conversation with the patient and the doctor, the patient's body speaking to the doctor, and the doctor listening and responding and helping coax the healing out of that patient.
Yeah.
The doctor doesn't do the healing. The patient does.
Yeah. We'll talk about Stillpoint Family Chiropractic, the kind of services you offer, what people can expect when they visit it. First of all, it's beautiful there. Beautiful location.
Thank you.
Beautiful environment inside as well. Share a little bit about that.
Well, thank you for that compliment. We do work hard to make sure that that when a person walks through the door, that they feel like they're in the right place, that it is a warm and welcoming environment, that everyone who is there is attentive to the needs of the patient when they walk in. And, a lot of times when we're in pain, we're kind of miserable and cranky. So the very first time people walk into my office, if they've come because they're hurting, they're not always at their best. But we get to look past that. We get to see the beautiful healer within and try and help that person find that beautiful healer within.
Yeah. Well, and that alone is healing, being totally present with them, because not too many traditional docs do that. They're learning to do that now, I think, the younger ones.
I hope we're all learning to do that. I think without even sticking a toe into the situation in the world right now, but I think we all get to stand up and be present for the people around us and to see, maybe with better eyes where they're hurting, and to give them a wide berth and maybe make allowances for the fact that you don't know what anyone's going through, and to approach things with, maybe a grateful heart that says, I don't know what they're going through, but I'm grateful I'm not going through it, because I'm not in that pain. I'm not in that place of discomfort. And
well, there might be some listeners right now who are going through some pain somewhere in their body. What types of symptoms would you encourage people to take into Stillpoint Chiropractic to see you for?
Well, you know what? Any symptom probably has its root and genesis in the nervous system, because your nervous system, your brain and spinal cord and peripheral nerves, pretty much are running your entire body from conception forward. And so any symptom's a good symptom, because in chiropractic, we don't look for symptoms. We actually look for a disturbance in the nervous system. We look for the place where the brain can't communicate with a body part and where the body part can't communicate with the brain, and see if we can't restore that communication. So the things that everybody is aware of, oh, my neck hurts, oh, my back hurts. And when I get introduced to somebody and they tell them what I do, it's like, oh, if I ever have a backache, I'll come find you. Well, if you have a spine, you should come find a chiropractor, me included. But there's lots of things, clearly menstrual pain is what brought me into the chiropractor's office the first time. And the very first chiropractic adjustment was restored hearing for the very first chiropractic patient. So, and really the first 75 to maybe 100 years of chiropractic, well, maybe not 100, but 75 years at least, it was really all about those organic issues that were going on. People would have, no hope anywhere else, and they'd go into a chiropractor's office and, oh my goodness, all of a sudden their body's restored to health. The BJ Clinic in Davenport, which BJ Palmer was the son of Dee Palmer, who founded chiropractic, and BJ is often called the developer of chiropractic. And BJ's clinic was amazing. It was integrative in that he ran blood work and would have them checked traditional Western medicine but he also ran a complete chiropractic workup. And once they were adjusted, they had to rest for 20 minutes. They were not allowed to leave. There was a gymnasium-sized room full of cots, and the patients would rest for 20 minutes, and then they could go about their day. Why would that be? Well, because you do your best healing immediately following a chiropractic adjustment, and you do your best healing when you're in a rested, relaxed state, such as taking a nap. So for the longest time, it didn't matter what the symptoms were.
Yeah.
You just went and got checked.
Yeah. It sounds like when people come to you for various symptoms, you're really treating the body, mind, and spirit, the whole person.
Absolutely. Not just their symptoms
Right.
or their disease or their diagnosis that they might have gotten from somebody else. Those aren't what we're looking for. Yes, we're mindful of them, and yes, they will guide some of the things we do, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking to restore the communication between the brain and the body and the body and the brain.
Well, let's talk about the power of gratitude. And before we do that, we're going to take a short break. But it's a joy to have Dr. Mary Grace Pennella in the studio today, founder of Stillpoint Family Chiropractic. And by the way, their phone number is 317-863-0365, and the website is drpennella.com. We'll have much more of this conversation, but first, here's a word from our sponsors.
Wellness is an active process of becoming more aware and making better choices that move you in the direction of a more successful life. Choices to eat well, move well, and think well enable your body to live well. When your spine is aligned properly, your brain and body are connected. Stillpoint Family Chiropractic is a family wellness center where we focus on your lifestyle and the impact it has on your spine, brain, and your life. Find us on Facebook at Stillpoint Family Chiropractic, or our phone number is 317-863-0365.
This WICR program is underwritten in part by Georgetown Natural Foods Market, located at 4375 Georgetown Road on Indy's west side. They carry organic produce and bulk body care products such as shampoo, lotion, soaps, and shower gel. Their kitchen serves soup, sandwiches, hot entrees, and carry-out food. Plus, they have a juice bar. Georgetown Natural Foods Market, located at 4375 Georgetown Road on Indy's west side. Their website is georgetownmarket.com.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Richard Brendan. We're bringing love to life today with MG, Dr. Mary Grace Pennella. And MG, we talked some time ago that if you had an opportunity to give a talk, that gratitude was something that you really wanted to expound on a little bit. I found that interesting because I'd say in the last 5 years or so, there are more and more books about gratitude, the power of gratitude. Years ago, yeah, we should all be grateful. But now we're realizing, oh, no, my God, that's a powerful emotion to have in our lives every day.
Oh, not only is it a powerful emotion to have, but it's a powerful state of being to be in, because being in that state of being is also very calmative for the whole body. And again, going right back to what we were saying before, the nervous system. When you are in a state of gratitude, your nervous system is bathed in positive chemicals, positive light, and your body exists at a completely different level than when you're angry or when you're mad at someone or when you're feeling vindictive or when you're trying to figure out, how you're going to get back at that person for hurting you. Being in a state of gratitude puts you in a much healthier position and a much more resting and digesting state.
Would you say that's one of the fastest ways, if you have a busy day, to get back into alignment with their source, into a higher vibration?
Absolutely.
Is start getting in that place of gratitude?
When we put patients on a particular test we do, which is called a heart rate variability test, and it's monitoring their skin conductance, their skin temperature, and their heart rate. And so what we're looking for here is to find out whether they're in sympathetic or parasympathetic state. That's two parts of your nervous system, and one is parasympathetic is resting and digesting, and that's where we should be existing most of the time. But because stress is such a ubiquitous part of our lives, we tend to spend way too much time in sympathetic dominance. Sympathetic is stress, it's fight or flight, it's gotta go right now. It's all the things we know to be associated with stress. You saw as I was standing here, my shoulders are going up because it's stress, and you put your shoulders up by your ear and you kind of gird yourself and it's go.
Well, and share a few more symptoms of that for our listeners, because I bet you there's a lot of people listening right now who are in that state. They just never recognized it.
Exactly.
Tiredness? Yeah, Katie, the engineer, raised her hand too. Tiredness would be one I would think.
Absolutely.
What else?
Cold hands all the time.
Oh.
Cold, dry hands all the time.
Katie raised her hand again. Okay. We're going to have a session with you afterwards.
No worries. But you're right. You don't think about it. You probably know somebody who always has cold hands. And you just figure, oh, well, they have cold hands. No, that's a sympathetic state. Their body is drawing in.
What about environments? Because it strikes me that we live in a stressful environment. Workplace offices are stressful. The news is stressful. And if we're not careful, we're being bombarded all the time with that kind of energy.
You know, careful has almost nothing to do with it these days, unfortunately. Stress is ubiquitous. It's whether it's you're out on the street driving, whether you're out on the street walking, whether you're listening to the radio or not listening to the radio, whether you have your cell phone in your hand and the news feed's coming across the bottom, or you're being bombarded because the TV is on or the radio is on, or you're at work and trying to get something done and there's 4,000 emails you have to respond to, but the phone's ringing and then your boss is at the door and then your secretary is toe tapping because you didn't give her what she needs to do. Yeah, life is stressful. There's no getting around it. And if you think about it, and stress is the only thing that will unbalance your body and unbalance your brain, it makes perfect sense that wherever we can grab an opportunity to get some brain balance is a good thing. Chiropractic is the number one way to let your brain get balanced. But it isn't the only thing. Never was, never will be. So that's why in our office we talk about a lot of different coping mechanisms that can synergistically work together with your chiropractic adjustment to let you kind of dial it down a little bit.
Such as a shot of vodka. Not just kidding. Go ahead.
Didn't see that one coming. No, but we talk about meditation. And we also, if you talk about gratitude, 5 minutes spent in gratitude. What would it look like in your internal being? We all have an awareness of what's going on inside, but most of us don't pay attention to it because there's too much external stuff happening. But if you sat even for 2 minutes and thought of all the things you're grateful for, and then just did kind of a body map, and you're like, okay, what's my head feeling like? What's my neck feeling like?
Yeah.
What's my gut feeling like? It's different than you were 2 minutes ago when you weren't thinking about gratitude.
Yeah, because it's really all about the feeling. I think actually science and research is kind of bearing that out as well.
Absolutely.
And that sense, that state of gratitude can put you quickly into that.
Absolutely. And gratitude is one of the easiest things for us to get in touch with. Really, when you tell someone to relax, that's the worst thing you can do. There's no way, because instantaneously their brain's given them every reason why they have no time to relax, why they've got other things to get done. But the minute you ask somebody what they're grateful for, the wheels are turning. My spouse, my children, that I had a good meal today, that I'm wearing a nice warm coat, that I have a car to drive and I don't have to walk somewhere. Instantly, that's a reaction and your body will respond. That question's very, very powerful. What am I grateful for right in this moment?
I discovered over the years when I was a hospice chaplain that when a person was pronounced terminal and they had time to deal with a lot of emotions, at first there was a lot of fear, a lot of anger and such, but when they came out on the other side, they had this amazing sense of gratitude. They took stock of what they had left. They paid more attention to that grandson or granddaughter or to their wife or husband. And a beautiful transformation took place. And when Bill Moyers did that 7 or 8 week series on PBS many years ago about death and dying, and they highlighted some of the research back then that was being done, it was amazing. All of these people that came out on the other side and now were embracing their reality, but embracing life, knew they didn't have very long to live. Their lives changed. And many of them who'd been in therapy for years didn't need the therapy anymore. I found that amazing that somewhere in our brain, things got rewired.
Right.
Yeah. And gratitude, what you're saying, is one of the ways we can start rewiring that brain.
And it really is all about rewiring the brain. That's a very, very, very clear picture. As we continue to be in a stressed environment and a stressed lifestyle, we set up these patterns in our brain that are literally wired for stress. But the minute you can break that chain, the minute you can pattern interrupt, if you will, with a thought about gratitude, it's amazing. That's so powerful. Your chiropractic adjustment is like a pattern interrupt too, because it stops the body from going in that same pattern that the body responds to every stress we have. We don't only experience stress in our mind, we experience stress in our entire being. So every body part, from our muscles to our gut to everything, experiences stress. And when you can do a pattern interrupt, you get a moment's relief of it.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. We're bringing love to life today with Dr. Mary Grace Pennella with Stillpoint Family Chiropractic. We're talking about the power of gratitude. We're going to have much more of that conversation, but first, a short break. back to the program. I'm Richard Brendan. We're bringing love to life today with Dr. Mary Grace Pennella from Stillpoint Family Chiropractic. And talk more about how a person can very easily, what are some things that our listeners could do that they probably should start off the day with every day? It's to start
absolutely.
getting in that state.
You know, there's a phrase out in the self-help world called the hour of power. So starting your day with an hour of power. But trust me, folks, the phrase hour of power just works because it has harmony. It can be 5 minutes of power, but it's called setting yourself up for success for the day. So I like to tell my patients that the first thing you can do to help yourself is stretch before you get out of bed. So stretch in every direction that you can while you're horizontal. Then you're going to sit up on the end of the bed and you're going to stretch, and you're going to stretch your neck in all the directions your neck goes.
It's funny you're saying that because my dog does that. Literally, most dogs do every day.
Absolutely.
Animals know that.
Animals are smart. They do know these things. So the first thing you can do is stretch. And then after that, if you just take a few minutes, sitting on the side of your bed and get into a state that says, what are you grateful for right at this moment? Before you start thinking about all the 10,000 things you have to get done, what am I grateful for right in this moment? Oh, look, I woke up. I am so blessed that the pattern that I learned, because my dad, every time he opened his eyes was, this is the day the Lord made. And before he went to bed, the last thing he said, because, toward the end, I was, tucking him in late, as the roles reverse. But the last thing he said before he closed his eyes were, thank you for a good day, Lord. Didn't matter what his day was like. Never mattered. Thank you for another good day.
Yeah.
So, that's powerful to have that role model in your life, but that's what I try and help my patients realize. You get the opportunity to start your day and you program it. Don't let life program it for you. Don't let all the things that have to do arrange your life and your day for you. You get to plan it. So you could start with some great material, and there's one really great book, the good book. You can start there if you wish. If that doesn't work for you, there are many other books that are positive in nature, give you a sense of things to start with. You talked about all the books on gratitude. One of my favorites is Melanie Beattie's Attitude of Gratitude.
Oh, yes.
It's a great book. It's a tiny, tiny little book, so you read a page a day. There are many different devotionals that have a page, which maybe has a paragraph or 2 paragraphs, that start your day up on a positive note, putting good stuff into your brain. After that, you get to do some breathing exercises. Again, you make up the routine, whatever works for you. I personally have a Tai Chi habit that just gets me limber and moving in the morning. And by now, my body knows that Tai Chi workout, and I don't have to think about it. So I get to just think of gratitude, think of the things I'm grateful for while I'm doing my Tai Chi form.
How long have you been doing Tai Chi?
You do the math, but I think 1991.
Okay, for quite a while. Yeah. And what got you into Tai Chi? Why that?
It was something I've always been interested in. The martial arts fascinate me, but I never felt like I ever was coordinated or limber or athletic enough to do a hard martial art. And a good friend of mine who was a martial artist, I watched him do several black belt tests, told me about Tai Chi, and I was like, oh, tell me about this. And it's a moving meditation.
Yes.
And it's amazing. And I was blessed that when I went off to Palmer, I had the most amazing instructor. The person that they tried to connect me with here had moved on. She'd moved to Europe, and so I never got to connect with her, but I got to have an incredible teacher when I was at IUPUI. And then after that, when I got to Palmer, I had 3.5 years with a gentleman who just absolutely lit my world up with Tai Chi. He taught me the history of the lineage for the line that we were learning. He was also very powerful meditation instructor, and so I took meditation with him. But I was just blessed to have 3.5 solid years of Tai Chi instruction. And I have a fabulous instructor that's here now. And I don't get to see him that often because he's in Trafalgar and I'm in Fishers. But but it's amazing, and our the Chen style is the style that we it's Yang style with Master William C.C. Chen. And so when he's in town, I try and take one of his courses. But it's amazing.
Well, one of the things I know that many people teach in sacred activism, Andrew Harvey certainly has, and I as well, when you do the inner work of heart to go along with outer service in the world, the inner work of heart is also physical things like yoga, Tai Chi, Aikido, what have you. And it's such a beautiful practice. I think everyone ought to have some kind of a physical practice to do a little bit every day.
Absolutely. And the best part about those ones that you mentioned, maybe not Aikido, but yoga and Tai Chi are not so stressful on the body that someone who feels like, oh, I'm not an athletic person, I don't know that I can do that. They're easy to do, and they're easy. Yoga especially is easy to rehabilitate for the body that can't do the poses specifically. I mean, we had a yoga instructor in my office back when we had a gym in the office who was able to modify all the poses so that we could do two women who couldn't get on the floor. They did chair yoga. So they did the poses from the chair. Yeah. And so it's beautiful in that it really is very adaptable to what your circumstances are. And it leaves you in a much more flexible position. And really, flexibility is everything in life. You know, the phrase move it or lose it is very cliche, but it's so real. If you are unable to move, your body's not able to be its best self. Yeah. So being able to do a body practice like yoga or Tai Chi and gain flexibility and gain strength and gain stability is a win on so many levels.
You know, what we're talking about now, to me, is so vitally important because of media, because of 24-hour news cycles, there seems to be so much fear, so much negativity out there every day. And it doesn't matter what channel you watch. It could be Fox, it could be CNN, MSNBC, it doesn't matter. And I think we really need to take control of our own lives, on our own thoughts and our own disciplines, and not just turn on the tube or turn on the radio and listen to talk radio all the time, unless it's, of course, this show and many others on WICR. But it does take that practice, that discipline to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And for me, the most important part of that, the nugget out of all of that, is paying attention to our inner self. The mainstream media does not teach us that our inner self has anything to say to us. Whereas all of the things we've mentioned, the Tai Chi, the yoga, the Aikido, the chiropractic, it teaches us that we have an inner self that has something to tell us. And when we pay attention to that inner self, we're able to express ourselves to a much greater level. That's why I love working with kids, because when you have a child who goes through chiropractic and you teach that child that their body cannot lie to them. Your body can't lie to you either, but I'd have a harder time convincing you than I do a small child.
Sure.
But they grow up knowing that, and so therefore they look inside when there's a problem rather than for external solutions. And it's that looking within that is always going to get us a much better answer, a better quality answer. So trusting that, you know, a symptom doesn't mean something has to be removed or that the symptom has to go away. The symptom is our warning light. Oh, I need to pay attention. Something isn't right, whether it's what I just ate and it's giving me a stomach ache, or whether it's something I was just thinking about or something I was just doing. Bottom line is, when I look within, we all have all the answers we need within. But it takes a skill and a discipline to pay attention and to be mindful of it at all times that we're looking within.
Physical pain will get people's attention. Unfortunately, it's like a car. If you don't put oil in the car, eventually the engine will burn out. But we don't have to get to that point.
Right.
And I know that's the biggest passion of most docs out there, and I know for you too, is prevention.
Absolutely.
Put these things in place.
Yeah. You have to have a self-care practice within and without in order for you to maximize your life. So self-care, you know, whether we know it or not, we eat as a matter of self-care. It's not just because it tastes good. It's not just because it's a fun exercise to, you know, move the jaws up and down. But eating recreates us. So when you look at eating from a recreation point of view, it makes it a little easier to make better choices. I'm not saying sugar's not going to have its way with you. It will. And the minute you have a little, you want more and more and more and more, because sugar is as addictive as heroin is. And has the same deleterious impact on your brain, by the way. That's a whole other day's topic. But but reality is, if we don't have a practice that says, I'm first, and that is the definition of selfish. But if you're not really taking care of you, you have no hope of taking care of anybody else or of doing anything external, because you haven't taken care of the house you live in, which is your body.
Yeah, I wanted to share a resource also that a friend of mine at All Souls Unitarian had shared with me, called thedailygood.org.
I've not heard of that.
I subscribe to that. It's free. I would encourage our listeners to do the same thing. And every day in your mailbox, you get 2 or 3 stories that are true stories and all about gratitude. Very, very positive. Doesn't take long to read. And there's so many resources out there for people to take advantage of, even free meditation resources if they do a little bit of research as well too. But again, starting off that day in that right place, because if you don't, the rest of the day will just grab hold of you.
And it's a roller coaster because you know, if you listen to the news consciously, there's never anything good. I mean, there may be a nanosecond where they, show you a happy puppy, but reality is that's not what sells. So from the minute you leave the comfort of that bed, the world's going to try and have its way with you.
Yeah.
This is your armor. This is your opportunity. And again, it says hour of power, but however much you can donate to it in the morning just gets to strengthen you that much further. Some days, it may be 5 minutes. You got more time one day, it's a little bit more.
Right.
It just matters that you're intentional about it, that you find what works for you. You have one resource there, but there are so many resources. There's so many great books out there that you can read. A chapter, a page, a paragraph, whatever. Just so long as you're putting good in and thinking about, bathing your body in gratitude, bathing your body in happy chemicals that say, I'm grateful for this, that, or the other thing.
Well, I know on your website, drpennella.com, you have a page of resources too people can go to.
Absolutely.
When I got on your website again, it looks like you've changed it again. It's improved even more, and it was already an amazing website. So I'm a little envious of your site there.
Did you happen to see on the testimonials page, we just put up a new video?
No.
Oh, wait till you see it. It's so fun. The genesis of the video was that we were looking to have a new patient video that patients could have an understanding of what goes on that first day, so that those who've never gone to a chiropractic office won't necessarily be overwhelmed. And we also have we're trying to do one in the office that is not even 3 minutes, but it explains the testing that we do. We do some pretty sophisticated testing with a computer, and it helps to break the ice. And so my assistant and I were working on that, trying to figure out what that would look like, and we pretty much came down to the fact that the ones we have that are canned we didn't like, and so we wanted to do one on our own. And we were noodling around saying, okay, well, wouldn't it be fun if we had some patient testimonials follow it, 1 or 2, whatever. Well, what it turned out to be, she put the call out, and she didn't tell me any of this, but she put the call out to a lot of different people. And so that's a love letter to me. And it's patient testimonials, and it's so delightful, and it's so not what we planned, but she ended up giving it to me for my Christmas present. And so she said, do you mind if we put it on the webpage? And I'm like, okay, where are you going to put that? Because that's a little strange. And she's like, it's all patient testimonials. Yeah. That's where it goes. I'm like, okay.
Not all chiropractors, I have found, seem to be that sensitive to ambiance, to energy. Many are. But I've met a few that aren't. You are. How important is it if a person makes a very first visit at Stillpoint Family Chiropractic? What are they going to experience?
Well, like I said, from the beginning, and actually that starts with the phone call before they ever walk in the door. I want them to know that they're in the right place. So we train, and I don't use scripts, but we train and we talk about what it means to greet everyone on the phone as though you really care that they called. Yeah. I learned that at a very young age. My family had a business, and my aunt she could have been yelling at me with all her heart and all her, God love 'em, Italian lungs. The minute that phone rang, she was, hello. I mean, completely different. And I would look at her like, wow, that is a strange morphing going on. And one day I was bold enough to ask her, and she said, because the person on the phone has no idea what's going on in this room. They called because they wanted something from us, and that's why we're in business. So you get to give them what they need. And so again, great role model in my life. So, the same thing goes on. When you answer the phone in my office, you are delighted that person called, and how can we help?
Yes.
And yes, we're here to help.
Yeah. So
that's the first thing. Then when they come in, for the first time, hopefully the environment is warm and friendly, but then the bodies better be warm and friendly, If it's your first visit to the office, my assistant will come out from behind the desk and shake your hand and welcome you. And then you get a tour of the whole office, so you know where everything is. You never feel like, oh, I don't know if I can go in that room. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
And, we do what we do. We have a consultation and exam, and that happens in one room. And then when we do x-rays, that happens in another room. And then ultimately, when we are adjusting, we're in a somewhat open area. It's semi-private, semi-open, depending on what way you want to look at that. And the reason for that is pretty intentional on our part. Everywhere else in the world, healing is a community effort. It's a community happening. In the United States, we tend to put people in a room by themselves and scare the hell out of them while we make them wait for days for somebody to tell them bad news, possibly, or even, good news. But by that time, you've gone to the catastrophe place because you're by yourself and your brain has run amok. In this case, we want everybody to experience and to help one another raise the vibration. Healing is an uplifting vibration. And so when we're adjusting, we want people to feel like they're in a great space. And when there's, maybe there's 2 or 3 people who are waiting to be adjusted, they're sitting in chairs and they look like they're wiggling and have ants in their pants. They're actually doing exercise, by the way. And somebody, one of the hallmarks in my office, we are an upper cervical office in addition to full spine work, which just means I pay attention to Atlas. And because Atlas is the most freely moving bone in your body, sometimes it takes a long time before Atlas decides it's going to stay where it belongs. And so that's our first benchmark. You're going and going and going and going and going, and finally when Atlas holds, it's like, yay, this is big time. They get a little certificate. It's a milestone in their care. Yeah. But till you get there, you're like, Doc, is this ever going to hold? Why is it out again? And the first time that we opened up our new adjusting space and somebody asked that question and there was somebody in chairs doing their wiggling, Doc, is this Atlas ever going to hold? Up pipes the other person and says, oh, yeah, it just takes forever. Don't worry about it. It'll happen. Perfect. That's the synergy we wanted because we want everyone to support each other in healing. And it's the energy in the office really took a big quantum leap upward when we made this change. And when my patients started to notice it and say to me, Doc, the energy is just so much more fun in this office. It's just so much different. We like it. You got to think, okay, mission accomplished. This is good.
Absolutely.
And there is still a private adjusting room. So for people who aren't comfortable in that environment, we still have a private adjusting room. There's no shame in saying I want to go in the private adjusting. Yeah. And the other piece of that is it doesn't have to be all the time. If you want to discuss something with me that you don't really want to discuss with the whole room, that's what the private room's for. It's perfect.
So whatever symptom they might be having right now, they can call you and you can talk to them and find the source of that symptom.
Absolutely. The neurologic source, the nervous system source. Absolutely.
Share the address of your
Sure.
location.
We're up at 9780 Lantern Road, and it's Suite 230, and so we're on the backside of the Lantern Place building.
Yeah.
It's a lovely building.
Yeah, and again, the phone number is 317-863-0365. Most people have the internet, so you can go to Dr. Pennella. Spell Pennella, please.
Pennella.
Yeah. I used to always say for people that if they ever having a bad day, just find a Trader Joe's and go in because the customer service is so impeccable. They'll make you feel great. They'll ring a bell for you and open up a line. Now I can add, go to a Trader Joe's or Stillpoint Family Chiropractic because that's the experience I've had when I've walked into your facility as well. Any last thoughts about gratitude that we've talked about that our listeners can take away?
You can never say too much about gratitude. And one of the cool things, I think, is when parents teach their children to count their blessings on a regular basis. I love it when I get to ask little ones what they're grateful for. And I know the ones who know, and the ones who don't, who look at me funny, I was like, okay, so tell me something that you're really happy about. It's breaking it down. What are you happy about today? What's making you happy right at this minute? Right at this minute, I'm sitting in a chair and my feet don't touch the floor and they're swinging. And that's kind of happy. So it can be anything that you can be grateful for. It doesn't have to be big and it doesn't have to be profound and it doesn't have to be earth-shattering. It could be that, your nails look good today. Whatever. Find something to be grateful for every minute where you have downtime.
Well, and I think
your body will change.
I think one of the things you shared earlier is really key too, and that is starting off first thing in the morning. It's so important, I have found, to do that. So easy not to, but to really schedule that time in, and it doesn't take that long. That a takeaway from me in listening to you today, MG, but also perhaps a physical practice of some time. And it can be anything, but just move your body as best as you can every day.
Right.
Yeah. Dr. Mary Grace Pennella, Stillpoint Family Chiropractic. It's such a joy to have you in studio again today.
Thank you. It's been fun
we've
being
talked about your speaking abilities, so I want to see you on a big stage one of these days and see you really cut loose.
You know, that's one of the other things. We tell patients that anytime you have a group that you want to bring some of this information to, I have lots of topics we can speak on, but the bottom line is I want to be out there. I want to be out there because we want to change the world one spine at a time, literally. But, you know, if you have a group that you'd like, I got to speak to a Mom's Morning Out group up at Holy Spirit at Geist.
Oh, wonderful.
Wonderful. I spoke to a baby boot camp at Keystone at the Crossing at the morning boot camp.
Yeah.
So anytime I get the opportunity to take my dog and pony show on the road, I'm on it.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you for also helping to be a sponsor of this show.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
A joy. So you're changing the world one spine at a time. We're doing it one broadcast at a time. We're just doing our part, aren't we?
Yeah, we're trying every day.
It's a joy to have you here, MG. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Richard Brendan, Bringing Love to Life is underwritten in part by Anthony Team Realty, an affiliate of FC Tucker Company. Jim Anthony and his team have the resources to assist you in buying or selling a home and have a full slate of real estate services in Indianapolis, Central Indiana, and beyond. To contact Jim and the Anthony team, their phone number is 317-844-4200 or online at anthonyteamrealty.com.
Richard Brendan, Bringing Love to Life is underwritten in part by Natural Awakenings magazine. Each month, Natural Awakenings takes a practical look at the latest natural approaches to nutrition, fitness, creative expression, personal growth, and sustainable living. The magazine also covers the products and services that support a healthy lifestyle. Natural Awakenings magazine is a free publication and can be found at most healthy lifestyle outlets. Their website is awakenindy.com.
This program is sponsored in part by The Playful Soul, an event venue, yoga studio, art gallery, and boutique for your spirit. At The Playful Soul, you'll find books, candles, essential oils, jewelry, clothing, music, and meditation aids. Located in the Broad Ripple Village, they also offer meditation groups, dream groups, and book conversations. The address is 6516 North Ferguson. Their website is theplayfulsoul.com.
Welcome back to the program. You know, the topic we talked about earlier was gratitude, and it reminded me of some things that I had put down quite some time ago that I called 7 Keys for Inspired Living. So I thought we'd go over those in the time remaining on the program. And the first key that I discovered in my life, ironically, was gratitude. You know, gratitude is all about appreciating what you already have. So many times we're thinking about all the things that we don't have. And I think what Mary Grace had talked about was really, really powerful and important. Start your day off that way. I mean, if you've got an early morning meeting, get up even a little bit earlier to make sure you have at least 5-10 minutes. That doesn't take much. But I'll tell you, as a guy who used to talk about this but not often do it, it has made a big change in my life that I'm doing it consistently now. Appreciate what you already have, because gratitude is at the heart of contentment. And think about it. I think the thing that most everybody really, really wants in their life is contentment. That inner peace where you're just present and you're not too much in the past, you're not in the future. There's just that peace of mind. And to me, there's nothing better than that. Start noticing what's actually right in your life, not the things that are wrong, but notice what's right in your life and write them down, because it's returning to our natural state of joy. Not too many babies that I have met, unless, God forbid, their mom was doing drugs or what have you. Most of these babies come out, they don't have twitches in their neck, and they're not nervous and neurotic about things. They're who they are. They're just fully present. Their natural state is joy. The great Lao Tzu said, "If you look to others for fulfillment, you'll never be fulfilled. If your happiness depends on money, you'll never be happy with yourself. Be content with what you have now. Rejoice in the way things are now, because when you realize there's nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you." So remember this: you are enough. You have enough. You do enough. Now, if you're sitting down somewhere, I want you to write that down, because that's a simple affirmation, but affirmations are powerful. It's another tool that can get you in that emotional state of gratitude that MG was talking about earlier. You are enough. You have enough. And you do enough. So gratitude is one of the top keys for me in living an inspired life. Another one is authenticity. Authenticity is all about appreciating who you already are. It's the primary secret of contentment. I love the quote from Emerson. He said, "What lies before us and what lies behind us are small matters compared to what lies within us. And when we bring what is within out into the world, miracles happen." It's giving yourself permission to be who you already are. So many people lead knockoff lives, like some of the neighborhoods I've seen in suburbia with knockoff homes. I remember the great Stephen Covey, who wrote 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. He came on this show. It was before he passed away, which that's why he came on the show. That would make a great interview, talking to him in the afterlife. But his last book was The 8th Habit. That book was thicker than the 7 habits, one habit. But that 8th habit was this: find your voice and then inspire others. Find your own unique, authentic voice and then use that in your own creative way to inspire others. I remember this great Apple ad that came out many, many years ago. But it's a reminder of that very thing. And the ad goes like this: "Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules. They have no respect for the status quo. You can praise them, disagree with them, quote them, disbelieve them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They invent. They imagine. They heal. They explore. They create. They inspire. They push the human race forward. Maybe they have to be crazy. How else can you stare at an empty canvas and see a work of art? Or sit in silence and hear a song that's never been written, or gaze at a red planet and see a laboratory on wheels? We make tools for these kinds of people. While some see them as the crazy ones, we see genius, because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Think different. So if you want to have an inspired life, a life full of joy, a life full of that inner peace, a life that's juicy and delicious, start off with gratitude, as Mary Grace already talked about. Start your morning off that way. Start taking stock in who you really are. Be aware of maybe the agreements that you've made with so many people along the way that have got you off your path. What are you called to do? What is your life purpose? That's one of the things that I do in my work, is a life purpose coach. If you have any questions about that, you can contact me. You can contact me through our website, richardbrendan.org. But what is your purpose here on this earth? That's being authentic. So gratitude, appreciate what you already have. Gratitude is the heart of contentment. Authenticity, appreciate who you already are. You're already beautiful. You're already that. It's the primary secret of contentment. And the next thing, and I learned this a lot from some of the hospice patients I had served, and some of these adorable elderly people I would meet in the nursing homes and assisted livings, and that is playfulness. Don't forget, the world doesn't make sense, and we're the most human when we play. I mean, don't let an old person inhabit your body. I've known some 21-year-olds that have old women or old men inside those bodies. Let go a little bit. Try to remember what gave you joy. Be goofy a little bit. Be eccentric a little bit. The great George Bernard Shaw was very eccentric. He fell out of a tree at 94, sawing off a limb. Why? Because he wanted to. Watch children play. Children before they're domesticated. You know, our kids get domesticated at about 5 years and older. But under that age, what you see is what you get. Little Johnny gets angry and upset. But you know what? He doesn't camp out in that for very long. Next thing you know, you see him out in the playground playing with his friends again. They have a way of remembering. I remember many years ago when I was doing a lot of serious work in activism and on the front lines of various causes, and one day I was coming home tired at work, and I passed by a park down in Greenwood. It was actually Craig Park, and a thought struck me, and I said, oh my God, where's my joy? I left it. I don't even know where it is anymore. And I was driving slowly by the park, and I saw a swing set up there. It was late at night. There was nobody else up there. And I thought, wow, I remember when I was a little kid, I used to love to swing on the swing sets. I used to love to swing as high and as far as I could go and then jump out of that swing. I said, Richard, when was the last time you did that? When was the last time you just played? So, true story, I pulled the car in. I happened to have a tie and suit on that day. I took the tie off, took the jacket off. I went up there. It was a full moon night. It was beautiful. And I just started swinging on this swing set. And I started swinging as high as I could. Now, the mistake I made is I did try to jump out of the swing and didn't land well. But I had the best time. And I felt the wind blow through my receding hairline, and it was glorious. I recaptured that sense of play. What was it that you used to love to do that maybe you need to do again to bring that sense of playfulness in? By the way, that's one of the regrets the most elderly people share in surveys. If they had a chance to do it over again, what would they do? They regret they didn't play more. And I found that very fascinating. So, keys for an inspired living: gratitude, authenticity, playfulness. And by the way, the great St. Teresa of Avila said this: no nun will be a part of our order unless she likes to sleep, she likes to eat, and she likes to laugh. Because if you like to eat, you're usually healthy. And if you like to sleep, you usually have no big sins on your soul. And if you like to laugh, you'll always be saved. I think that's pretty sound advice. 4, perseverance. You know, some people succeed in spite of handicaps. Others succeed because of them. But the truth is, our problems help to make us what we are. When I think about never giving up, I think about my boyhood hero. I grew up in Springfield, Illinois. We were very much indoctrinated with Abraham Lincoln, would go to New Salem about every spring on a class trip. Because I lived in the state capital, I visited Lincoln's home. But Abraham Lincoln also had the most amazing story. And to me, it was the top story I've ever heard about never giving up. And I just wanted to share with you some facts about Abraham Lincoln that maybe you didn't get in history class, or if you did, you certainly didn't remember. But think about this. Lincoln was born into poverty in 1809. In 1816, Lincoln's family was forced out of their home, and he had to go to work to support them. In 1818, his mother died. In 1831, he failed in business. In 1832, he ran for state legislature and lost. In 1832, he lost his job. That same year, he decided he wanted to go to law school, but his application was rejected. In 1833, Lincoln borrowed some money from a friend to begin a business, but by the end of the year, he was bankrupt. He spent the next 17 years paying off that debt. In 1834, he ran for state legislature again and lost. In 1835, he was engaged to be married, but his fiancée died, and it broke his heart. That was Anne Rutledge. In 1836, Lincoln suffered a total nervous breakdown and was confined to his bed for 6 months. In 1838, he sought to become Speaker of the state legislature and was defeated. In 1840, he sought to become elector and was defeated. In 1843, he ran for Congress and lost. In 1846, he ran for Congress again. This time he won and finally made his way to Washington. But in 1848, he ran for re-election to Congress and lost. In 1849, he sought the job of land officer, but was rejected. In 1854, he ran for Senate of the United States and lost. In 1856, he sought the vice presidential nomination at his party's national convention. He got less than 100 votes and lost. 1858, he ran for the United States Senate again and lost again. Then in 1860, Lincoln decided to run for president. I mean, based on what? His track record? Well, he won. And he went on to become one of the greatest presidents in the history of the United States, and I think one of the finest models of leadership in modern times. Well, in a speech, Lincoln said this: "The path was worn and slippery. My foot slipped from under me, knocking the other foot out of the way, but I recovered and said to myself, it's a slip, not a fall." So, keys for an inspired living: start off every morning with gratitude. Appreciate what you already have. 2, authenticity. That's all about appreciating who you already are now. Stop leading that knockoff life. Have the courage to be who you are. 3, playfulness. Don't forget, the world will never make sense. Certainly not now with this 24-hour news cycle. 4, perseverance. People succeed often in spite of their handicaps. They don't let them get them down. And certainly try to remember that story about, I think, one of our greatest presidents, Lincoln. 5, forgiveness. Drop judgments and accept people for who they are. You know, nothing clutters a life or the life of a nation more than the 3 R's: resentment, remorse, and recrimination. What are you holding on to right now? Is there something you're not forgiving yourself about? Is there somebody that did you wrong 10 years ago, and you're still holding on to that, although they probably have long forgotten about it? Forgiveness is key to having that inspired life, to having that abundant life, if you will. You know, I was told many years ago that in Asian countries, monkey is a delicacy. And the way you trap a monkey in the forest is you hollow out a gourd, put a piece of fruit in it, you tie a rope at the end of the gourd, and then the bushmen hide in the bush, wait for the monkey to smell the fruit. The monkey will stick his hand in the hole in the gourd, and by grabbing the fruit, by making a fist, the monkey can't pull his hand out of the gourd. In other words, by not letting go, the monkey dies. Forgiveness, to me, I have found, and also in this broadcast I've done all these years and all these authors and teachers coming on, that self-love is usually the one thing we still don't do a very good job about, and the one thing that keeps us from not loving ourselves like we should, and that is so healthy to be able to do. Even Jesus talked about it. How can you love your neighbor if you don't love yourself? Meaning we can't. But we have to be forgiving of ourselves. We have to be kind to ourselves. So maybe there's somebody out there right now listening to this show, and that's the one thing out of this whole program that you need to hear the most. It's time you forgive yourself. It's time that you're kind to yourself. It's time that you take stock of the talents that you have. Yeah, you do have those talents and gifts. You might have been beat up by somebody who should have lifted you up when you were younger. I don't know your story. We all have our stories. But I know this. I know you're beautiful, whoever you are. I know you're brilliant, whoever you are, no matter what you've gone through, no matter what your level of education. And I know you have talents and gifts that need to be shared with this world, because this world is lacking something without your beautiful, bright light shining. So, if you've fallen like Lincoln, dust yourself off. It was just a slip, and get back into the game. Be grateful for what you already have in your life right now. Have the courage to find your own purpose in life and share it in any way that you can every day. And that's today's program. I want to thank Dr. Mary Grace Pennella for being in the studio live today, talking about the power of gratitude. Again, the website for Stillpoint Chiropractic is her name, drpennella.com. Our website is richardbrendan.org. And so for engineer Katie Ayers and production coordinator Kate Miller, I'm Richard Brendan. We're bringing love to life one broadcast at a time.